What's going on, fantasy football fans? I'm your host, Hussein the Brain, and you're watching The Couch. Welcome to the Week 10 waiver wire video. There were a lot of close games in the NFL this week. In fact, 3 games went to overtime. The Panthers beat the Packers, the Colts beat the Broncos, and the 49ers, this is the biggest upset, the 49ers beat the Falcons. Unbelievable. By the way, Blaine Gabbert named starting quarterback for the 49ers for Week 11. And D'Angelo Williams, Antonio Brown, my picks for DFS. You know, we killed it last week in daily leagues. So make sure you stay tuned for my Week 10 DFS picks video. It's going to be coming out real soon. We have a great video for you this week. As always, we got the waiver wire pickups, over 50 players to pick up. We have the hashtag AskTheBrain segment where I answer the viewer question of the week. And at the end, we're going to be having a big giveaway, so stay tuned throughout the whole video. This week, the 4 teams on bye are the Falcons, Colts, Chargers, and 49ers. I won't be going in too much detail on the guys that I previously mentioned in videos in the past, but there are some new guys, there's some old guys, and over 50 guys here total on the waivers. For quarterbacks, I got Tyrod Taylor as my number 1 QB pickup. He has a high floor, he can scramble. Blake Bortles, a must pick up in every league. The Jaguars are averaging the 9th most pass attempts per game. Blake Bortles is averaging 38.9 pass attempts per game. They have great matchups, and he played well against the Jets. I think the Jets defense, they didn't play lights out, but they played okay. I mean, they have some holes in that defense for sure. They're not perfect, but he played really well against the Jets, and he impressed me. I think he's going to be a QB1 going for the rest of the season. Brian Hoyer is another guy that should be picked up in almost every league. He's a great QB2. If you just look at his stats recently, he's been killing it, and his matchups are great. Now, Week 10, his matchup is not great. He's playing against the Bengals D. I think they're a pretty good defense. They seem like an average defense in fantasy if you just look at the stats, but I think they're a little bit better than what they show on the stats. They're pretty good. And then, Week 11, he's playing against the Jets. That's bad. But after that, all good. Week 12, Saints. Week 13, Bills. Not that bad. Week 14, Patriots, which could be a high-scoring game. He's going to need to throw the ball. Well, he's going to need to throw the ball just about every game. Then the Colts, Week 15. Titans, Week 16. And for those that play, Week 17 against the Jags. For those that play, Week 17 fantasy. A great sleeper pickup this week. I really like Kirk Cousins. If you're desperate for a quarterback, he's available in just about every league. He's going to be really good going against the Saints, the worst pass defense. Now this looks bad on paper and is just as bad in real life, is just as bad in fantasy. The Saints defense and the Saints passing defense, they're bad. And Kirk Cousins is playing against them. If Deshaun Jackson can put up more than 1 or 2 fantasy points like he did the past week, Jordan Reed is good, we know that. Garcon's okay. I think Kirk Cousins has a lot of potential. Risky, but great pickup if you need a spot start for Week 10. Joe Flacco's okay. I mean, not great, but he's got a good matchup going against the Jags. And if you need other quarterbacks, look at Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota. Those 2 are good to start, depending on the matchup. But they have some favorable matchups, easy schedule. You may want to start them in those weeks. They're really good in dual quarterback leagues as well. Some more sneaky starts are Matt Castle this week. He has a sweet matchup against the Bucs. And if you're in deeper leagues, dual quarterback leagues, keep tabs on Josh McCown's status going against the Steelers. Not a great matchup, but not terrible either. And Andrew Luck, as you guys already know, I'm sure, is going to miss 2 to 6 weeks. The Colts are on bye this week. Carlos Williams, talked about this guy just about every week. He's the number 1 pickup. James Stark should be picked up in every league. Eddie Lacy's trash. Eddie Lacy is hurt. Eddie Lacy's a disappointment. Eddie Lacy's the fantasy woe of the week. Definitely want to pick up James Starks. Theo Riddick must pick up in PPR leagues, and this week he's slated to have a great game. I really wanted to hold on to Riddick. I ended up dropping him to pick up Lanford because I wanted to start him this week. I had a lot of players on bye, so I unfortunately dropped Theo Riddick. He's not available in my league. I drafted the guy, so I miss him, but I needed Lanford. Lanford came through. But man, in PPR, you definitely got to pick up this guy against the Packers. I see him getting a few targets that game. Now, going to the Patriots running backs, we got LeGarrette Blount's going to likely be the lead back in a committee after that, and sometimes LeGarrette Blount may not be the lead back. So this makes James White and Brandon Bolden good waiver wire pickups. I got James White ahead of Brandon Bolden, ranked ahead of him, and if it's in a PPR league, he's definitely ahead of Brandon Bolden. A little bit hard to predict with the Bellatrix going on over there in New England like it usually is. Sean Drone, if you need a running back stash in a deep league, this guy's really good. The Niners are on bye, though. Keep that in mind. I also have Buck Allen and Jonas Gray. He got cut from the Dolphins, if you didn't know that already. And David Cobb's a stash, talked about him before. This is really deep league stuff here. Stephen Ridley and Kadeem Carey while Forte is out. For wide receivers, the top 2 wide receivers to pick up are DGB, Dorial Green-Beckham, and Kamar Aiken. Kamar Aiken is going to likely slide to the wide receiver 1 spot, followed by Chris Gibbons. Now it's more of a deep league pickup. And I got Cole Beasley as a guy that should be picked up in PPR leagues or maybe 12-man leagues or deeper. He's not going to get a lot of touchdowns, but in PPR he's okay. He's definitely not any better than a wide receiver 4 at best. A guy you don't really want to start, but a guy that will add depth to you if you have a deep bench and if you have enough room on your bench. I'd say DGB is the high upside wide receiver to pick up, and Kamar Aiken is a safer wide receiver to pick up. I personally like DGB a little bit better. I like upside, I like potential, and I usually like to take a little bit of risk. Kenny Stills is okay for deep leagues if he seems to be the wide receiver 3 on the Dolphins. Wes Welker signed to the Rams. Now, some people just totally write off Wes Welker. He's not going to do anything. Now, I don't think he's going to be great, but he is worth a stash in deep leagues. I do think he's going to see a decent amount of playing time for the Rams. So why not put him in there? I think he's going to help out that team. Now, he's not going to put up huge numbers. Nick Foles is one of the worst starting fantasy quarterbacks this year. He's been doing terrible. They just give it to Gurley, play defense. That's the game plan for the Rams every week. And keep tabs on the injury for Vincent Jackson and Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Eric Ebron's a high-risk tight end, but should be really good this week going against the Packers. Garrett Selleck, he's a good tight end, I think. He's on bye this week. Keep that in mind. Now, he's not a tight end 1 in fantasy, but he is a tight end 2 and should definitely be looked at if you're in a deep league. Richard Rodgers, of course, and we talked about Clive Walford last week a few times, and he was a sleeper pick for me that I mentioned, rookie tight end for the Oakland Raiders. For defenses, I really like the Packers going against the Lions. The Lions are a mess. I like the Panthers going against the Titans. I really like this Panthers defense. Mariota seems to be the guy that's going to play very well against soft matchups, but I don't think he's going to have a great game against the Panthers this week. I just don't see it. I like the Cardinals going against the Seahawks. If they can get a little bit of pass rush, they can get some sacks on Russell Wilson. Seahawks, I don't think, will put up a lot of points. Of course, the Seahawks defense is always a good start when they're in Seattle, but they're not going to be available on your waivers, no way. Get the Steelers going against the Browns. Maybe Josh McCown starts. Maybe Manziel starts. I know we tend to like it better if Manziel starts if you want the Steelers defense to play well. And you got the Bengals going against the Texans. It's a good matchup for the Bengals defense. They're really good. They're slated to have a great game against the Texans and win by a ton of points. But I don't like them necessarily for the short term. Now, they should be picked up in a lot of leagues, but I don't like them just because of this game. I like them more of a long-term pickup. Like I said, I think the Bengals defense is all around pretty good. So in fantasy and in real life too, they are undefeated team. I don't think you could be undefeated right now in the NFL and have a terrible defense. There's no way. So I like the Bengals defense now and going forward. Now, Fitzpatrick he may have that surgery, but it doesn't seem like he's going to have that surgery this week. He's going to start Thursday night game, but Buffalo Bills defense is okay. Eagles, that's a pretty good one. That's one with a lot of upside going against the Dolphins. And a little bit deeper leagues, you got the Ravens or the Vikings defense. They have decent matchups. Not great, but decent. We used to always start the defense going against the Jags. Always start the defense going against the Raiders. Now, Jags are still a great matchup for defenses, but not as much as they used to be. And the Ravens, after Terrell Suggs went out, their defense obviously isn't doing that great. But the Raiders, man, their offensive line is playing solid. I like what they're doing, and if Latavius Murray can make his way back on the field, the Vikings defense may not be a top 10 play this week. They're good, but man, Carr and Latavius Murray, Crabtree and Amari Cooper, those guys are playing really well. And for super desperate plays, some sneaky starts. We got the Cowboys going against the Bucks, and in the same game, the Bucks going against the Cowboys. The Bucks are actually favored to win by, I think, 1 point or 1.5 points. So that's going to be an interesting game with probably not a lot of amazing, polished offensive plays. For kickers, a lot of people drop Justin Tucker. Hey, I even told people to drop Justin Tucker. I like him. I think he's going to be a top 3, if not top 3, top 5 kicker this year. I mean, he's great, but man, you need that. You're not going to keep him on your team and not pick up D'Angelo Williams, or if you needed an RB this week and last week, you're not going to keep Tucker, keep 2 kickers on your team and not pick up Langford. That's not how you play fantasy. So he's available in some leagues, and he's the best kicker on waivers right now. So you got Justin Tucker, Mason Crosby, really good kicker this week and decent for long term. Chris Boswell's a great kicker. I like Greg Zuerlein this week. Kai Forbath, a little bit sneaky start. Caleb Sturgis, Mike Nugent, and you know, you don't want to pick these guys up, but I just put them in there as they could have good weeks. Travis Coons and Randy Bullock is the new kicker for the Jets. Nick Folk has been placed on IR. If you want your question answered on the next video, make sure you get that in by Tuesday, and whether it be on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever, make sure you use hashtag AskTheBrain. This week's viewer question comes from YouTube from Goldmine85. He asked, is Lynch and Martavis too much for Hopkins? Hashtag AskTheBrain. This is a great question right here. I think this is a fair trade. Now, short answer is it's not too much. No, I would do this trade. It is a fair trade. Now, when there's a trade like this, when I say it's a fair trade, you have to find the small little details. This is often what I do for fantasy. If someone asks me, hey, do I start this player or that player, and it's really close, you got to find small details. Maybe there's a lot of wind that game. Maybe the QB is a little bit injured, so I may not start that wide receiver. In this case, you want to ask yourself, am I good at running back? Because you give up Lynch, that's probably your number 1 drafted player. You probably drafted him in the first round, if not the second round. More than likely your first running back you drafted. So are you going to be good at running back? Maybe you picked up D'Angelo Williams. You don't really need Lynch. Is it PPR? Because in PPR, DeAndre Hopkins is worth more. So if you're good on RBs, it's PPR. And you need a wide receiver 1 like DeAndre Hopkins, because Martavis Bryant's a wide receiver 2 at best. I like this guy. He's a lot of upside. But he doesn't have Big Ben this week, so that decreases his value, and he is on bye. So that's 2 weeks that you likely don't want to start Martavis right there. So I would do this trade, and I'm sure because you're asking, you probably do want a wide receiver 1 or need a wide receiver 1. And you're probably not desperate for a running back since you're considering giving away Lynch. So yes, I do this trade. It's not too much to give up. And now it's time for the giveaway. I have a question for you. Whoever gets the answer the closest, so we're going to have 1 winner. We'll win a pair of sunglasses and stickers this week. Hey, 1 pair, we'll do 2 pairs of sunglasses and a bunch of stickers. So this week we're going to do 2 sunglasses, pair of stickers of the person that answers this question the closest. Let's do it. So the Patriots are playing the Giants this week. Which Patriot running back will score the most fantasy points? Let's do PPR scoring. So give me the name of the running back that's going to have the most fantasy points for New England, as well as the fantasy points. Make sure you use a decimal. So, for example, you can say LeGarrette Blount, 20.0 fantasy points. So leave a comment below with your answer, and the prize will go to the person that answers the closest. Shout out to our last week's winner. Congratulations, we'll be sending you a Fantasy Couch gift pack real soon, so be on the lookout for that. That's all the time we have for this week. If you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my VIP waiver wire list to get these waivers sent to your email before anybody else gets them. Also, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got the waiver wire videos coming out every week, and of course my DFS NFL picks. So make sure you subscribe. Also, like this video. Last week we got over 100 likes. Thanks, guys. Like the video, subscribe to my VIP waiver wire list. I'll see you guys on the next video.